Hi, I'm Tiffany. Welcome to Towering TBR. So, I have read 6 books so far this year, and I am very excited to talk about them with you. I've had kind of a little bit of a roller coaster ride. I've had some really great reads, and I've also had a couple of duds. I am going to start with the books that were least successful for me and work my way up to the top. And I have a new 5-star read that I will end the video with. So make sure you stay tuned for that. The first book I read was The Calculating Stars by Mary Robinette Kowal. I buddy read this with Hannah over at Savage Reads. This is an alternate history set in the 1950s and getting started in the space race. A meteorite hits Earth and it is an extinction level event, and they want to put in even more effort into being able to leave the Earth and colonize space. We are following a mathematician whiz, Alma York, and she has to fight quite a lot of sexism and misogyny in this program. There are also some heavy handed attempts to talk about the racial inequalities as well, but I never felt like it really scratched more than the surface. The only thing I liked about this book was the group of women who were basically in this space program and becoming friends. I felt like that was pretty much the only highlight. Most of the time, I was just really, really bored. The author herself narrates the audiobook, and I did not enjoy her narration. Neither Hannah or I liked this book, and I am giving it 2 stars. This is the start of a series, but I will not be continuing. Another book I buddy read was Stoner by John Williams. I buddy read this with Hannah and Audrey over at Audrey Approved. I'll link both of them. This is a modern classic, a character study focused on William Stoner. He was born to parents who are poor farmers, and he gets the opportunity to go to college so that he can learn agriculture and how to be a better farmer. However, as soon as he takes an English class, he completely pivots and decides he wants to be part of academia, he wants to be a teacher or professor. This is a very depressing story about a passive man just basically floating through space. Audrey called him a wet noodle, and I really feel like that fits. So he becomes a professor, but he has like a workplace nemesis who hates him and wants to make his life more difficult. He is married to a woman who at times hates him. They have a very unhealthy, awful relationship. And he has a very unsatisfying relationship with his daughter, something that he says he wants to change, but never does. He never does anything to try to change his circumstances. Also, when he hurts people, he takes no accountability. He thinks that his actions basically don't really matter or affect other people. He was an extremely unlikable character, and if I was rating this book solely on enjoyment, this would also be a 2-star. However, the writing is gorgeous, and this is a very layered and complex character study. I just seem to struggle with unlikable characters. The audiobook is narrated by Robin Field, and I think his narration added to my enjoyment. So I've settled on a 3.5-star, which I can do because I'm on Storygraph. If you want to be friends on Storygraph, my profile is listed in my description. All right, those were the duds. Let's move on to some better reads. If you saw my favorites of the year, which if you didn't, I will link it so you can check it out, you will know that I absolutely loved the Stranger Times series by C.K. McDonnell. It's a humorous fantasy paranormal series, and it is just so much fun. The 5th book is a holiday-themed book called Ring the Bells. And for a little bit, I was like, maybe I should wait and read this Christmas 2026. Maybe I'll want it to be, seasonal, not want to read a Christmas story in January. But then I was like, nope, I need it now. And I'm really glad that I went ahead and read it. I think it would have been even better at the holidays, but I still had a really good time. So basically, a god gets resurrected and he decides he needs believers, he needs followers, and He needs attention, which is very difficult to do in society. He decides to tap into Santa and the belief that children have in him as a way to gain power. And the Stranger Times are hot on the trail and investigating what is going on and letting people know. We also get quite a bit of backstory for the character of Manny. I really enjoyed that and thought it added a lot to his character. We also get some secrets unraveled about the founders and how they affect the society. This is a long running arc throughout all of the series so far. I love the characters. I think the humor is amazing. And Brendan McDonald is a top tier audiobook narrator. I gave it a rare 5-star audiobook rating, which means I think that's the very best way for you to consume the story. I ended up giving the story itself 4.25 stars. Another book I gave 4.25 stars was Slayers of Old by Jim C. Hines. This is a humorous standalone fantasy about 3 elderly friends who band together to thwart the apocalypse. It is pitched as Buffy the Vampire Slayer meets Golden Girls, and I think that really fits. I enjoyed myself immensely. The audiobook has 3 narrators and is a great way to go. I did a spoiler-free review, which I will link in case you want to check it out. Have you ever read a book by accident? You weren't planning to read it, but you pick it up and immediately get sucked back in? Well, that happened to me. I was in a bit of a book slump, and I decided to just start listening to a little bit of Project Hail Mary. This was my 5th reread in 5 years. I'm a little bit obsessed. And I knew I was going to reread it before the movie comes out on March 20th, but was not intending to pick it up just yet. But it's a credit to the writing and to the audiobook itself. If you're unaware of what this story is about, Rylan Grace is on a mission to save Earth. The sun is dying, and therefore things on the Earth will die as well unless they can figure out how to change it. I won't say anything more about the story because I love the way it unravels, but I will say if you can get the audiobook, again, 5-star audiobook, Ray Porter is one of my favorites. So that was a 5-star, but I had read it before. My first 5-star that was new to me was Guards by Terry Pratchett. I love Terry Pratchett so much, and I have really been enjoying reading his Discworld books. If you're new, Terry Pratchett's Discworld is 41 books. They have lots of different sub-series throughout and repeating characters, and Guards is the first in the City Watch. How to explain this book? Okay, so there are about 3 threads throughout the story. The first is kind of a secret society who want to learn how to summon a dragon to wreak chaos and grab power. The second part is the City Watch, basically the police force in Ankh-Morpork, and they are trying to figure out where this dragon came from, how they can get rid of it, what is going on. And the third element is basically a coming-of-age story for Carrot. He was raised by dwarves his entire life and is very naive and trusting. He really reminded me a lot of Elf from the movie Elf. It is decided he needs to go out and live amongst humans and get a job. And so he, of course, joins the City Watch. We get to see these events unravel through his trusting and naive eyes. There were so many humorous scenes. I was literally laughing out loud so much. But I think what makes Terry Pratchett so magical is you can have a funny fantasy story, and yet there are also these insightful moral takeaways that just hit you like a gut punch. I'll share one of them. Down there are people who will follow any dragon, worship any god, ignore any iniquity, all out of a kind of humdrum, everyday badness. Not the really high, creative loathsomeness of the great sinners, but a sort of mass-produced darkness of the soul. Sin, you might say, without a trace of originality. They accept evil not because they say yes, but because they don't say no. Those lines felt especially relevant today, even though this was written all the way back in the 1980s. I'll share one more that I felt was extremely pointed. Let the other societies take the skilled, the hopefuls, the ambitious, the self-confident. He would take the whining, resentful ones, the ones with a belly full of spite and bile, the ones who knew they could make it big if only they had been given the chance. Give him the ones in which floods of venom and vindictiveness were dammed up behind thin walls of ineptitude and low-grade paranoia. That sounds familiar. The message, insightful. The humor, wonderful. The characters, so darn lovable. And the audiobook has 3 narrators, and they did an exquisite job. These audiobooks are very good. This was my 6th Discworld book and has already completely supplanted Hogfather, which was my favorite back when I read it in December. The next book in the City Watch series is called Men at Arms, and I'm really looking forward to continuing on and picking it up. I think it's pretty clear I've been in the mood for silly, light, funny fantasy and science fiction. What has been drawing you in lately? What are you reading? Let's have a chat down in the comments below. And if you like my videos, make sure to like and subscribe so you can see them all. Thank you so much for joining me. Happy reading. Bye.